Earlier today, I saw a video published by CplCash titled CIG Sneakily Adds an Insurance Feature, where they talk about a newly discovered feature/bug that allows guns to be insured and restored through the claim and repair mechanic, usually used for ships. I'll be linking that video in the description below. In the video, they do this using a regular weapon, but I was curious to see if it would work on the truly rare and valuable weapons. Incidentally, I now have infinite railguns. Hello folks, Space Tech here, and welcome to a video demonstrating exactly how the reclaiming or duplication of the weapon is done, followed by the impact I think that this is going to have on the game, both good and bad, as well as my thoughts about how this can be leveraged to add some much needed depth to Star Citizen. So how do you go about using ships to recover your weapons? First, you want to find the weapon you want to reclaim. In my case, I wanted to test this mechanic to the max, so I went about acquiring a railgun by purchasing it from another player for about 100,000 aUEC, an interaction I'll bring up later. After this, pull out any ship that has a gun rack that can hold a weapon that you want to reclaim. Place your weapon into that gun rack. To do this, you may have to leave whatever armistice zone that you pulled out the ship from. In my case, I just went a few kilometers away from the station before placing my railgun in the cutter's weapon rack and flying back to the station. Now, you want to store your ship and pull up the Vehicle Loadout Management app. Here, you want to remove a weapon from the loadout of the ship that holds your railgun, then save and quit. Now, reopen that same loadout manager and edit the same ship, re-adding the same weapon you took off earlier. Then, just pull out your ship, head inside, and you'll notice your railgun is still on the rack. Pull the railgun off the rack and sit in the pilot's chair. From here, you'll notice that you can repair the ship for about 6,000 aUEC. Using that repair and going back to the rack, you'll notice that your railgun has respawned on the rack and can be taken off and stored. Repeat this and repair as many times as you want to get as many railguns as your heart desires. So the question remains, is this a bug and an exploit, or is this intended behavior? Considering there has been exactly zero mention of this mechanic as a feature, as well as the workaround nature of how to get it to work, I don't think this is intended behavior. Yet. To clarify, I do think that there must have been some intention to treat weapons on the weapon rack as a component of the ship, just like any other. A completely speculative guess is that they were investigating how to prevent loss of modules from mining ships on their heads. Another thought could be early testing for intended behavior as part of the wider conversation around insurance and reclaiming all the components on your ship. Either way, this has given us, the Star Citizen community, a unique opportunity to have an informed conversation about loss and punishment for death in Star Citizen. There are undoubtedly people who are excited and really happy that this mechanic is now in Star Citizen. Personally, I don't think their excitement is completely unwarranted. For a long time in Star Citizen, people have been hesitant to use gear that they have paid for using real money, because there isn't an easy way to recover that gear if it's ever lost. The process used to involve utilizing character reset to set your character to its base state and restore possession of all items in your hangar, including weapons and armor. While there is still no method to recover lost armor, this mechanic now means that those people will be able to reclaim lost weapons with relative ease. A tiny bit of effort to set up a ship with your desired arsenal, and you can use that shiny gold sniper rifle as much as your heart desires. It also means that people who find a great weapon in a loot box can use that weapon without worrying about how many boxes they will have to loot in order to find that weapon again. RNG can be exciting, but it can definitely be a detriment to play experience as well. As anyone who's played Destiny can tell you, fate is not always kind. For example, during last year's Halloween event, players were tasked with looting red boxes scattered throughout the system to find special helmets. Once looted, these helmets would be added to the player's hangar permanently. I searched over 300 red boxes across an entire week, spending upwards of 20 hours just flying between a group of 10 outposts opening every single red box to no avail. I was finally able to get one of these masks, not because I found one, but because a friend of mine found a second one on their 10th box opening and was kind enough to let me have it. This new system would allow for a reduction of the impact of RNG, but it reminds me of a quote by the creators of the Civ series. Given the opportunity, players will optimize the fun out of a game. And so, one of the responsibilities of designers is to protect the players from themselves. Even if RNG sucks, the scarcity of these weapons lead to the most interesting part of Star Citizen, player interaction. Until the removal of snipers and heavy weapons from shops, the most common interaction between players in the verse was PvP by a long margin. Once those weapons were removed, however, and had to be looted, this opened gates for the truly emergent behavior that we've been expecting of a sandbox game like Star Citizen. Out of seemingly nowhere, many Discord servers opened up market channels allowing their members to post on that virtual bulletin board to buy or sell these rare weapons. Ever so often, one would see a global chat light up with negotiations between players trading between one another. That one simple removal had led to the creation of an entire game loop for some, where they would just go around looting as many railguns as possible and sell these back in bulk to distributors and orgs, or individually to someone who just wanted to face Jumptown with a big gun in hand. In fact, the very railgun that I reclaimed in this video was purchased from one such gunrunner who sold me this weapon for 100k. It was an awesome experience to find a seller, haggle with them for a price we both thought was fair, and then the tension of trust. These purchases must be made outside of an armistice zone, where there are no protections. Would I pay him first, only to be left behind with no railgun? Or will I simply pick up the railgun only to promptly turn it on the seller, walking away with a free one? These are exciting interactions and interesting gameplay for all involved, and I got to turn my evening session into a multiplayer one completely organically. Unfortunately, the fact is that this change also cheapens PvP, especially the already starved FPS combat. In a battle between two players where one kills the other, unlimited rare loot cheapens the experience significantly. A player no longer has to make interesting decisions as to whether or not to bring that awesome sniper rifle, or whether they should prepare themselves for asymmetric combat where they may have to shoot down a fighter from the ground. When you kill a player that has a railgun on their back or a rare sniper, why would you care anymore? You have hundreds of your own and can make more anytime you want. The excitement of PvP has been robbed from both the winner and loser of that interaction. PvE is equally harmed. One of the most exciting parts of going down and doing bunker running was looting all the interesting weapons that you could find, whether that be grenade launchers or railguns, or even some sniper rifles that are exceedingly rare like the scalpel. Why even bother looting those red boxes if you can just manufacture more weapons at home? Again, an interaction that is robbed of being interesting simply by having too much access to great weapons. Inspired by a recent conversation I had with Salty Mike on his podcast, I have to wonder if this mechanic does trivialize loss in Star Citizen. With 3.19's increase in claim timers for ships, obviously there is already some punishment for dying, but the most significant impact has always been the loss of armor and rare weapons. When we're out on a bunker getting gunned down by a guard, we care not for the million aUEC ship that we had brought with us, but rather the armor and guns that we had on us at the time. Insurance in Star Citizen is trivial, and our punishment for death is often only our time. With the ability to simply spawn more rare weapons, the stakes for failure have been lowered even further, again only punishing in time through forcing us to do the repair loop and generate more railguns. That being said, I think this mechanic opens up the opportunity to kill two birds with one stone. If a weapon can be added to a ship's loadout in insurance for a truly exorbitant amount of money, say 10x the value of the weapon, it not only acts as a much needed money sink, but it once again forces interesting decisions to be made. If I can add railguns to my ship's loadout, but every time they have to be replaced or every time the ship is claimed, the cost has gone up by 200 or 300k, I'll be forced to take better care of my ship, making insurance more interesting while also saving room for gun runners to undercut these increased insurance prices. Of course, a lot of this assumes that we will soon stop losing our lives in ships to bugs as often as we do today, but I hope for this conversation to have more longevity than that. So should we keep this in-game, regardless of it being an exploit? Is the benefit of insuring our weapons worth losing out on the interaction that we have with other players? I understand 30Ks and other bugs happen, so maybe our current level of punishment is simply too high. What do you think of my idea of adding a multiple of the weapon's value to ship insurance, trading aUEC for convenience? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and or subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Take care and see you in the next one.